Hello and welcome. Today we're embarking on, well, quite a fascinating journey, looking into a figure whose name you almost certainly know, the legendary Greek king Odysseus.
That's right. And his story, it's not just about old myths, it's really about uncovering the um, surprising layers of a character who embodies cleverness, toughness, and, let's be honest, a pretty complex sense of morality.
Absolutely. Tales of his cunning, his long voyage, but there's just so much more beneath the surface.
Exactly. And our aim here is to kind of distill the key insights from all the research we've gathered on him, give you a shortcut to really understanding this multifaceted hero.
So let's start with who he actually was, his name, for instance. We mostly know him as Odysseus, the Greek name.
Right, but the Romans, they picked up the Latin version Ulysses.
But it wasn't even just those two, was it? Our notes mention other Greek forms like Ulysses or Ulixis.
Yes, and even in a Etruscan version, Euthuses, it hints at a really tangled linguistic past, which kind of fits him, doesn't it? Complexity from the very start.
And the meaning of the name itself, the ancients had ideas about that too.
They did. They tried linking it to verbs, meaning things like to be angry with, or to hate, even to lament. Homer plays with this.
Oh, with his grandfather Autolycus naming him because he was angered with many.
Precisely that. And some modern scholars even wonder if the name is, well, maybe not even Greek originally, perhaps pre-Greek. It just adds another layer to his identity.
And what about how he looked? The descriptions seem to vary quite a bit.
They really do. You get Dares the Phrygian painting him as tough, crafty, cheerful, medium height, eloquent, wise, a sort of capable, clever guy.
But Homer gives a different impression.
Yeah, in the Iliad, Homer says he's shorter, but broader than Agamemnon. He even compares him to a deep-fleeced ram, sort of sturdy, grounded.
Interesting. And later in the Odyssey.
Then it gets a bit more, well, maybe romanticized. Bushy locks like flowers, a bronze tan, strong physique, fine massive thighs, brawny arms. It shows how perception of him could shift, even
It
physically.
reflects his adaptability, maybe.
I think so. And that connects to his family background, too. His parents are Laertes and Anticlea, his wife Penelope, son Telemachus. That's the core.
But his mother's side is interesting, right? The grandfather.
Autolycus, yes, a famous thief, and crucially, a son of Hermes, the god of tricksters and messengers. So Odysseus has a divine great-grandfather known for cunning.
So the ingenuity might be inherited.
It's certainly suggested. There's even another story, not in Homer, that his real father wasn't Laertes, but Sisyphus.
Sisyphus, the ultimate trickster, punished in the underworld.
That's the one. It just deepens that association with cleverness, maybe even deceit.
And he definitely put that cleverness to use, especially around the Trojan War. He famously tried to get out of it, didn't he?
Oh yeah, the feigning madness bit. Plowing the beach with an ox and a donkey yoked together, supposedly sowing salt instead of seed.
Just completely nuts. But someone saw through it.
Palamedes did. Very cleverly, he put Odysseus's baby son, Telemachus, right in the path of the plow. Odysseus had to swerve, revealing he wasn't mad at all.
And Odysseus held a grudge about that.
A serious one. It seems to have festered and led to trouble for Palamedes later on. A sign of Odysseus's ruthless side, maybe?
Another key early move was getting Achilles involved, right? That was vital.
Absolutely critical. Thetis, Achilles' mother, had hidden him away, disguised as a girl among princesses to keep him safe.
So how did Odysseus find him?
Pure cunning. He laid out gifts, jewelry, instruments, things girls might like, but he also included weapons. Then he had his men sound a battle alarm.
And Achilles.
Instinctively grabbed a weapon, gave himself away. It shows Odysseus' knack for psychological traps, for seeing beneath the surface.
And during the war itself, he wasn't just a fighter, was he?
No, far from it. The Iliad shows him as a really trusted advisor, a voice of reason. He often rallied the troops, kept morale up.
Like when Agamemnon wanted to give up and sail home.
Exactly. Odysseus gave a powerful speech, persuaded him to stay. He was also part of that important group sent to try and convince Achilles to rejoin the fight, though that didn't work out.
But he wasn't afraid of action either.
Definitely not. He volunteered to fight Hector one-on-one, although Ajax ended up doing it. But his big strategic coup was probably the night raid with Diomedes.
Ah, to steal King Rhesus's horses.
Yes. There was a prophecy. If those horses drank from the river Scamander near Troy, the city would never fall. So Odysseus and Diomedes snuck in, killed Rhesus, stole the horses. Hugely important.
That really shows his pragmatic side, using prophecy to his advantage.
It does. And he showed practical leadership, too, like advising Achilles to let the army rest and eat after Patroclus died, before rushing back into battle, thinking strategically even in grief.
He seems competitive, too. The funeral games for Patroclus.
Oh yeah, he wrestled Ajax the Greater to a draw, and he won the foot race. Mind you, Athena apparently gave him a little help in the race.
Huh. Divine intervention doesn't hurt.
Never does in Greek myth. But it all builds this picture of him as, Achilles' opposite in many ways.
How so?
Well, Achilles is often about raw emotion, rage, honor won through might. Odysseus is about reason, patience, diplomacy, achieving goals through intellect.
And different from Ajax, too.
Very different. Ajax is pure strength, brawn. Odysseus has the brains and the persuasive speech. It's why they often clashed, that contrast between mind and muscle.
And outside the Iliad, we hear more stories about his, let's say, darker cunning, like with Palamedes.
Right, the grudge resurfaces. Some accounts say Odysseus framed him, planted fake evidence, a forged letter, some gold, made him look like a traitor. Palamedes was executed. Another version has Odysseus tricking him down a well and then burying him alive with stones. Pretty ruthless either way.
Wow, that's a side you don't always hear about.
It shows the complexity. Admired cunning can easily tip into outright treachery, depending on who's telling the story and why.
What about after Achilles died? Odysseus played a role there,
A
too.
major one. He and Ajax recovered Achilles' body and his divine armor. Then came the dispute over who deserved the armor.
And Odysseus won.
He did, arguing his case more persuasively than Ajax. But this loss drove Ajax into a mad rage, and ultimately he killed himself out of shame. A tragic outcome stemming from Odysseus' victory.
He seems to leave a trail of consequences.
He certainly does. Another tricky mission was getting Philoctetes and Heracles' poisoned arrows back to the fight. Philoctetes had been abandoned by the Greeks, including Odysseus, years before, and was understandably furious.
So how did Odysseus manage that?
Pure persuasion, maybe some manipulation depending on the version. He had to overcome intense bitterness to get those vital weapons for the final push against Troy.
Which brings us to his most famous contribution,
The Trojan horse.
his masterstroke.
Absolutely. His idea, built by Epeius, filled with Greek warriors led by Odysseus himself, that's how they finally got inside Troy's walls.
And didn't he also steal something important from Troy? The Palladium?
Yes, he and Diomedes snuck in and stole a sacred statue, the Palladium, which was said to protect the city. Though some later Roman writers add a nasty twist. Odysseus tried to kill Diomedes on the way back to claim sole glory for the theft. It shows that Roman suspicion of him again.
So Troy falls, thanks in large part to his schemes. But then comes the really famous part, his journey home. 10 long years.
The Odyssey itself, an incredible saga of resilience against, well, everything the gods and monsters could throw at him.
Where did it start going wrong?
Almost immediately, a raid on the Cicones, which cost them men, then the Lotus Eaters, where his men lost all desire to go home, and then the big one, Polyphemus the Cyclops.
The nobody trick.
Exactly. Ingenious way to blind the giant and escape. But then, that moment of pride, shouting his real name back at the Cyclops as they sailed away.
Big mistake.
Huge. Polyphemus was Poseidon's son. That act earned Odysseus the sea god's undying anger, which plagued his entire journey home. A perfect example of his cleverness causing its own problems.
What came next? So many trials.
Well, there was the gift from Aeolus, the god of winds, a bag containing all the storm winds, leaving only the gentle west wind to blow them home.
Sounds perfect.
It should have been. But his crew got greedy, thought the bag was full of treasure, and opened it just as they could see Ithaca, whoosh, blown all the way back.
Oh, nightmare. Their own fault.
Entirely. Then came the Laestrygonians, giant cannibals who destroyed all his ships except his own. A devastating loss.
And then Circe, the witch.
Yes, on the island of Aea. She turned his scouting party into pigs. Odysseus, with help from Hermes and a magic herb called moly, managed to resist her magic.
And he ended up staying with her.
For a whole year. It's one of those strange delays. He overcame the threat, but then seemed to settle in for a while.
After Circe, where did he have to go?
To the edge of the world, basically. To the underworld. To consult the dead prophet Tiresias about how to get home.
He spoke to the dead.
He did. He spoke to Tiresias, saw old comrades like Achilles and Agamemnon, and crucially, he spoke to his mother's ghost. That's how he learned about the situation back in Ithaca, with the suitors taking over his palace.
That must have spurred him on. What other dangers? The sirens?
The sirens? Yes. He plugged his crew's ears with wax, but had himself tied to the mast so he could hear their irresistible song without leaping overboard. He always wants the knowledge, the experience, even when it's dangerous.
And Scylla and Charybdis.
The ultimate between a rock and a hard place, a six-headed monster on one side, a giant whirlpool on the other. He had to choose, and he sailed closer to Scylla, losing 6 men, 1 for each head. A brutal leadership decision,
Just one horror after another.
pretty much. Then came the island of Thrinacia, the island of the sun god Helios. Tiresias and Circe had warned him explicitly, do not touch the sacred cattle.
Let me guess. His men touched the cattle.
While Odysseus was asleep, yes, they were starving, killed the best cattle, and feasted. Helios was enraged, complained to Zeus,
And Zeus.
sent the thunderbolt that smashed their ship to pieces as soon as they set sail. Everyone drowned except Odysseus, who clung to wreckage.
The sole survivor. Where did he end up then?
He washed ashore on Ogygia, the island of the nymph Calypso, and she kept him there for 7 years.
7 years. Was he just trapped?
Essentially, she loved him, wanted to make him immortal, but he longed for home for Penelope. Eventually, the gods, prompted by Athena, sent Hermes to tell Calypso she had to let him go.
Finally. So where did he go from there?
He built a raft, sailed away, but Poseidon hadn't forgotten him. Wrecked his raft again, he washed up, near dead, on the shores of Scheria, the land of the Phaeacians.
Ah, the Phaeacians. They helped him.
They did. They were known for their amazing ships and hospitality. They listened to his whole story, treated him like royalty, and then very kindly sailed him back to Ithaca.
But they dropped him off while he was asleep.
Yes, a strange detail. They left him sleeping on the beach with all their gifts, maybe to avoid any divine trouble themselves. When he woke up, Athena appeared, disguised him as an old beggar, and told him it was time to plan his return carefully.
So he didn't just burst in.
No, that would have been suicide. He needed strategy. He went first to his loyal swineherd, Eumaeus. It's poignant how his old dog, Argos, recognizes him despite the disguise, wags his tail, and then dies.
Oh, heartbreaking.
It really is. Then comes the climax in the palace. Penelope, pressured by the suitors, sets up the contest of the bow.
The challenge only Odysseus could manage.
Exactly. String his famously rigid bow and shoot an arrow clean through 12 axe heads lined up. None of the suitors can even string it.
But the beggar asks for a try.
Right. Amidst mockery, he effortlessly strings the bow, makes the impossible shot. Then he turns the bow on the suitors.
The slaughter begins.
With Telemachus, Eumaeus, and another loyal herdsman, Philoetius, fighting alongside him. They kill every single suitor in the Great Hall. It's incredibly violent, but seen as justified vengeance.
But even after that, Penelope needed proof.
She did. She couldn't be sure after 20 years, so she tests him with a secret only they knew. She orders a servant to move their marriage bed out of the bedroom.
And Odysseus reacts.
He's outraged because he knows the bed can't be moved. He built it himself, carving it from a living olive tree that grew right through their bedroom floor. That secret confirms his identity.
Wow. That's incredibly intimate, a symbol of their connection.
It really is. Homer calls it homophrosyno, like-mindedness. Then he reunites with his father, Laertes. There's a brief threat of civil war from the suitors' families, but Athena and Zeus step in to impose peace. Order is restored.
So that's the end of the Odyssey. But his story didn't necessarily end there, did it?
Not in all traditions, no. There are other, sometimes contradictory, accounts. For instance, genealogies linking him to the founding of various Italian cities through sons he supposedly had with Circe or Calypso.
Like Romos, a son with Circe being connected to Rome.
Exactly, which completely goes against the Odyssey's focus on Telemachus as the single heir. It shows how myths grow and get adapted to new contests.
And there's that other ending from the lost epic, the Telegony.
Yes, a much bleaker end. It says Odysseus was eventually killed, accidentally, by Telegonus, his son, with Circe, who came searching for his father but didn't recognize him. Telegonus used a spear tipped with a poisonous stingray spine.
Killed by his own unknown son. That's tragic irony.
Very much so. And the story gets even weirder after that. With Circe making everyone immortal, and Telemachus marrying Circe while Telegonus marries Penelope. Very strange stuff.
It really shows how fluid these stories were. What about how later cultures saw him? The Romans, for example.
Ah, yes. A big shift there. Because the Romans saw themselves as descended from the Trojan hero Aeneas. Odysseus, the architect of Troy's fall, became the villain.
So, not the cunning hero, but...
Cruel Odysseus.
Yeah.
Deceitful Ulysses. Virgil's Aeneid portrays him very negatively. You also see a manipulative side in some Greek tragedies like Euripides' Iphigenia at Aulis. His reputation really depended on your perspective.
And that negative view carried on.
It influenced Dante, certainly. In the Inferno, Ulysses is down in the 8th circle of hell, punished as a counselor of fraud.
Because of the Trojan horse and other tricks?
Exactly. Dante has him tell this amazing story of his final voyage, sailing beyond the known world, past the Pillars of Hercules, seeking virtue and knowledge. But it's presented as a kind of forbidden quest, and he's ultimately shipwrecked and drowned by divine will, a warning against overreaching ambition.
It's fascinating how his journey gets reinterpreted. What about more modern times?
His influence is just immense. Tennyson's poem Ulysses gives us an older Odysseus, restless again, wanting one last adventure. James Joyce's Ulysses uses the structure of the Odyssey to frame a single day in Dublin.
And more recently,
Margaret Atwood's The Penelopiad retells the story from Penelope's viewpoint, giving voice to the women. And apparently Matt Damon is set to play him soon. Even animation, like Ulysses 31, updating the myth to outer space.
music too.
Yes. From rock songs like Cream's Tales of Brave Ulysses to Suzanne Vega's Calypso, telling the story from the nymph's lonely perspective. And even full concept albums like Symphony X's The Odyssey. He inspires artists across the board.
When you look comparatively, do similar stories appear elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely. Folklorists identify his story type as the homecoming husband. You see parallels in Hindu epics. Nala and Damayanti being separated and reunited, Rama having to string a mighty bow to win Sita, much like Odysseus's bow contest.
So the core themes are universal.
They seem to be loyalty, homecoming, identity, tests. But Odysseus's journey, driven by his personal longing for home and family, is quite different from, say, Aeneas's journey in Virgil. Aeneas is driven by fate and duty, the destiny to found Rome. Odysseus's quest feels more personal, more human, perhaps.
And remarkably, there's even physical evidence connected to him on Ithaca.
It's quite incredible. Recent archaeology, just identified in 2025 actually, points to a sanctuary, possibly at a place called Agiosa Athanasios, linked traditionally to Homer. They found inscriptions with his name, a bronze bust, offerings. It suggests a real public cult worshiping him on his home island.
So he wasn't just a literary figure. People actually worship him.
It certainly looks that way. Plus, you have other sites named after him, islands. And even today, things like a moon lander, asteroids, a Greek prince bear his name. His legacy is literally written on the landscape and even in space.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground across centuries and interpretations. He's a figure who just keeps shifting, yet somehow stays incredibly compelling.
It really is. This exploration of Odysseus, it shows us more than just an ancient hero. He's become a kind of timeless archetype. It makes you think, doesn't it? How can one character be endlessly reimagined, mean so many different things, yet still strike such a chord with people across cultures and vast stretches of time? It's quite extraordinary.